Business Advantage Incorporated, Brian Tracy, their agents and representatives do not render any legal or professional advice. This video should not be used as a substitute for professional services. If legal or professional advice is needed, please consult with your attorney or professional advisor. Welcome to the Business Advantage Incorporated program, High Impact Telephone Selling. In this presentation, top trainer and consultant Brian Tracy provides his expertise and insight on techniques to ensure peak performance in personal development. Please call your Business Advantage Incorporated representative for over 16 programs by Brian Tracy and many other topic areas in training and development.
Hello, I'm Brian Tracy. The telephone is the most powerful business tool available to you today. Some of the highest paid, most successful salespeople in almost every industry do all their business by telephone. The telephone is a special tool that you must master if you want to fulfill your potential as a professional telephone sales specialist. Now, there's some good news. Using the telephone effectively to sell is like learning how to type with a typewriter. When you start off, you use the hunt and peck method. It's very clumsy, 1 or 2 fingers. But when you take a touch typing course, and this is sort of like that for the telephone, you get faster and faster and better, and pretty soon you're typing 50 to 80 words a minute, 10 times better than you were when you started. It just takes learning and practicing. To sell effectively by telephone, you must learn 5 things. First, you must learn the basic sales process. In other words, what are the steps that every sale goes through in terms of what you have to do to get the sale? You also have to learn the customer buying process. What are the steps that the customer goes through thinking in order to come to the conclusion to buy? And then you have to dovetail your sales process with the customer's buying process. The third is you must learn the key questions that you must answer. The questions that are both spoken and unspoken by the customer, but which the customer needs to know in order to make a buying decision. Number 4, you need to know how to build credibility. When you're selling over the phone, you don't have the advantage of your personality and your voice and the ability to see the customer's face. You have to have very high levels of credibility to get a person to make a sales commitment and a dollar commitment over the telephone, and I'll show you how to do that. And 5, you have to learn how to ask for the order. Wonderfully enough, however, if you do the other things properly, the orders will almost take care of themselves. Okay, let's take these 5 things one at a time. The basic selling process consists of 7 steps. The first of these 7 steps is prospecting, which means finding people who can and will buy your product. This is the toughest part of all in prospecting. Sometimes you'll have leads laid out for you. Sometimes you'll have leads which will not turn out to be good prospects. Remember, a prospect is someone who needs your product or service, can use it, can afford it, and will buy it and will pay for it within a reasonable period of time. In prospecting, you've got to sort these people out as quickly as possible because 4 out of 5, 9 out of 10 people you speak to will not turn out to be genuine prospects. The second step in the selling process is the qualifying, which is determining if a specific prospect is a good investment of your time and energy. Remember, all you have to sell is your time. And good prospects are rare. Poor prospects take up a lot of time. And you have to develop the ability to sort good prospects from poor prospects quickly by qualifying them and finding out if they have a real need or problem for which your product or service is a meaningful solution. The third part of the sales process is problem identification, which means determining the actual problem or need of this prospect. You must never assume that every prospect you speak to has the same need, even for the same product. What you have to find out is exactly the problem or need that this prospect has that can cause them to buy to solve the problem or to satisfy the need. The fourth step in the sales process is the presentation. This is where you explain why it is that your product is the best choice, all things considered. Now here's an important point. It's often called the Woody Allen rule, where he said that 80% of success is just showing up. Sometimes you don't have to have the best product or the cheapest product in the whole world. All you have to do is have a good product and a ready product and just show up on the telephone and explain about your product so that you can get the order. Number 5, answering questions and objections. That is a major part because every single sale involves objections. If a customer does not object, it means that they're not interested. If they do object about price and availability and they're satisfied with what they have and they don't need it and so on, it means that they're interested in buying what you have. Customers also object to get information to reduce the fear and uncertainty that goes with any major purchase. So expect objections and don't be upset about them. I'll give you a couple of very simple techniques to handle telephone objections in just a minute. The 6th part of the 7-part sales process is closing the sale. That's getting the order and a commitment to take action. At the end of the sales process, the sale may be just about there, but you have to learn how to reach out like a low-hanging apple and pull it off the tree. You have to learn how to ask for the order. And number 7, getting resales and referrals from the customer. Sometimes customers won't buy at all, but if you ask them if they know someone else who may be interested, they may lead you to a customer and sometimes several customers. A referral is 15 times easier to sell to than a cold call. So whether they buy or not, always ask if they know someone else who may be interested as well. Now, customers fall into 4 categories, and they require one of 4 different sales approaches in each of these categories. Let's talk about computers or other high-tech products. The first category is when the product from the customer's point of view is new or complex. The customer is not familiar with the product or service. The customer is a first-time buyer. In this case, what is needed from you is a consultative, advisory sales approach. What does this mean? Well, let us say you're calling someone about a computer, but they don't know a lot about computers. They don't know and understand the complexities of computers. They may not even have bought this kind of a thing before, or they may not have bought it from you, or they may not have bought it before or from you or over the telephone. In every case, you take a consultative approach. You ask questions. You draw them out. You listen to the answers, and you make recommendations and suggestions. Now, the second type of customer is where the customer is familiar with the product. They've got a computer, they've got a complete setup. They know how they work, but still the computer is complex and expensive. Maybe they've bought from you in the past, so they don't need a consultative approach to show them how and why they should buy, but what they need is a relationship selling approach. They need to like you and trust you and have confidence in you because you call them by name and you ask questions and you listen to their answers. Now, the third approach is where the product is new. Maybe it's a gadget. It's simple and uncomplicated. It's a simple sale. In this case, the customer needs you to tell them quickly what it is, what's in it for them. The customer requires a direct, friendly approach focused on making a decision quickly. This is not the kind of sale where you have to spend weeks and months calling back because the person can make a decision immediately after you've made the presentation. And the fourth type of customer is a customer who is very familiar with the product or service, and the customer views the product as a commodity available everywhere. As far as they're concerned, what you sell is the same as anybody else's. So the customer requires a lower or even the lowest price in terms of information. And all the customer cares about is, do you have the best product at the lowest price? And that's how you focus on a customer for whom the product is a commodity because they're so familiar with it and they think it's available everywhere. Now, the customer goes through 4 stages in the buying cycle in this order. First, recognition of needs. Recognition of needs must take place in the customer's mind before the customer has any interest at all. Your opening question has to be to connect with a need or problem that the customer has for which your product or service is a solution, or the customer won't even listen to you. For example, if you're selling computers, you could say, would you like to get twice as much done in half as much time? Well, if the customer is really concerned about time pressures, they'd say, yes, of course, what is it? In that case, you've identified a need that the customer has that your product may be a solution to. The second part of the customer buying process is the evaluation of options. Once the customer is aware that there is a product or service that can solve his problem or her problem, he or she wants to know what else is available. You're offering me your product or service. Is there anything else available that may be cheaper, faster, better, more convenient? It's very important that you address this by saying there are several different products available. However, on balance, from what you've said, what you're selling is better than anything else. Remember, you've got to convince them that amongst alternatives, yours is the best solution. The third part that the customer goes through, this third part of the process, is what is called the resolution of concerns and questions. The customer now reaches a hurdle psychologically. Do I go ahead or not? The question will now object. Well, I don't have the time right now. I don't have the money. Why don't you send me some information in the mail? I have to talk it over with someone else. I'm not sure if this is the right thing. I want to think it over for a while. You'll hear all these all the time. What the customer requires at this time is reassurance and guarantees. For example, what we do when we sell over the telephone, when the customer goes through these delaying tactics and can't afford it and wants to think it over, we say, look, from what you've told me, this sounds like it would be ideal for you. Why don't you take it? And if for any reason you don't like it, you can send it back. You always have to give a very high level of assurance and very high guarantees, all-encompassing guarantees in telephone sales. And that's your ace in the hole. You can unconditionally guarantee that you will guarantee satisfaction for the customer and use that as the reason for the customer to buy. Now, number 4 in the customer buying process is the commitment to action and to payment. Get the customer to say, yes, okay, I'll take it, and then ask, how would you like to pay for this? And arrange to close the sale or the transaction completely. Try to avoid callbacks wherever possible. Callbacks lead to telephone tag. They lead to an enormous amount of time, and almost always the reason for the callback is because the salesperson has not pressed the sale to a final conclusion. Now, the customer has several questions, both spoken and unspoken, that you must answer in the course of your conversation. You should probably take these questions and work out written answers to it. The first question when the phone rings and you get the customer on the phone is, why should I listen to you? I'm busy and you're interrupting. Why should I listen to you? So your opening statement must be something that connects with a reason for the customer to break off what they're doing and listen to you. For example, Mr. Prospect, would you like to save 20 or 30% in your sales costs over the next 12 months? That's a good reason to listen. So the second question the customer will ask is, what is it? What is it exactly? What are you talking about? That's when you say, Mr. Prospect, we have a system or a method that has been developed over time that works for companies like yours to decrease sales costs by 20 or 30%. And you can then say, is this a good time? I just need a minute or two of your time to tell you about it. The next question the customer has is, what's in it for me? WIIFM, everybody's favorite radio station. What's in it for me? How do I benefit? You see, the faster you connect with the benefit of your product or service, the more interest you'll have on the part of the customer. Mr. Prospect, this can be installed quickly and easily, and it can begin saving you money in the first 30 days. Oh, then the customer becomes skeptical. Oh, nobody wants to be manipulated. Nobody wants to be sold something that is wrong for them. Nobody wants to be taken advantage of over the telephone. So this is the next question the customer asks. Who says so? Other than you, who says so? At this point, you should be prepared to say, ABC company uses this. Such and such a person uses it. We have several thousand customers and clients in every state that use it. In other words, give references, testimonials, anecdotes, success stories of other people who've bought this product over the phone and how happy and successful they were with the product. The customer is waiting for proof. This social proof, or proof by others, is absolutely essential to overcoming the natural skepticism and resistance in a telephone presentation. The fifth question the customer has is, why should I act now? Remember the rule, no urgency, no sale. Why should I act now? Why shouldn't I just get the information and think about it forever? So always have a good reason why they should act now. A benefit, a bonus, a saving, a cost reduction, something that they get if they act this minute. The sixth question the customer will have is, how does it work? I mean, how does it actually get the result or benefit that you're promising? Remember, the primary reason why sales do not close is because of fuzzy understanding. The customer is not quite clear how it works, and if the customer is unclear, then the customer says, well, let me think it over. I'm not in the market. I can't afford it. The seventh question that customers ask is, how fast do I get results? Customers today are very impatient. They want to know the time to payback, the speed of payback. If I put in the money, how quickly do I get the results? Or if it's a product, for instance, from a catalog, it's how soon do I get the benefits? How soon do I start enjoying what I'm buying? The eighth question the customer asks is, how can I be sure? What are my guarantees? What are my assurances? How can I be sure that I'll get what you promised to give me? And this is where, again, you have to emphasize your guarantees, your warranties, your customer satisfaction policies. Now, you need credibility to get a hearing on the phone, but you need mega credibility to get the sale. Here are 5 elements of mega credibility. The first one is you, the salesperson. If you're pleasant and polite and positive and cheerful and friendly, that goes a long way to reassuring the customer that they're dealing with a good person and a good company. The second is your company, your reputation, how long you've been in business, your market share. Goes a long way to building credibility. Don't be afraid to brag on your company. Talk about how big you are, how good you are, how many customers you have, how satisfied your customers are. The third way to build credibility is with testimonials, and testimonials from satisfied customers. I have a letter here from one of our customers who wrote, or I spoke to a customer yesterday who said. An anecdotal testimonial or a quoted testimonials are very powerful to raise mega credibility. Now, the fourth key to mega credibility is your presentation. It's customer focused, it's practiced, it's prepared, and it explains clearly what the customer gets, how the customer gets it, and how the customer benefits from it. The fifth part of mega credibility is the product. Your product, you have to show that your product is ideal for this prospect, that the value, the amount of money that the customer pays is outweighed by the value that he or she gets. The customer has to believe that this is the value I get, this is the price that I pay. To be successful in telephone sales, you must keep on, hour after hour, smiling and dialing. So here's some of the rules. Number 1, expect customer resistance. Expect objections, especially on your first call to this customer. And here's what you say when you get an objection. I call this the blanket approach to any objection that you could ever get. I'm not in the market, I'm not interested, I don't want it, I can't afford it, I can't use it, I can't make a decision today. You say, that's all right. Most people in your position felt the same way when we first called them, and now they've become our best customers. That's all right. Most people in your position felt the same way when we first called them, and now they've become our best customers. This relaxes and reassures the customer and triggers the customer into asking, well, what is it? Which allows you to begin selling. A second point to relieve the stress of selling is to breathe deeply 3 times before you call. Breathe deeply and hold it and let it out, and then smile into the telephone and lean forward. Many top sales professionals on the phone have a mirror in front of them, and they smile into the mirror when they talk because people can hear a smile on the phone. They can also hear a frown. Introduce yourself when the person answers the phone and give your name clearly. Hello, this is Brian Tracy. I'm with ABC Company. Could I talk to you for a couple of minutes? Is this a good time for you? In other words, open it very strongly, and what I would say is, hello, I'm Brian Tracy. I'm with the Institute for Executive Development. Would you be interested in a method that could save you 20 or 30% of your sales costs over the next 12 months? When the person says, what is it? I would say, is this a good time? I need 1 or 2 minutes of your time to explain what we have. And if the person says yes, you proceed. If they say no, you ask, when would be a good time that I could call you back? If they give you a time to call back, that's an appointment, and most customers will keep their appointments. Now, the fourth thing you can do is to ask a question aimed at the result or benefit of what you're selling. But don't be cute. Don't call up and say, you want to save money? That's a cute statement. Say something like, is cutting your health care costs a matter of concern for you, Mr. Prospect? Ask a very nice question, ask it politely, ask it pleasantly, and smile. Then, listen attentively. Number 5, listen attentively to the prospect. Let him or her talk. Remember, if you listen attentively, listening builds trust. Question for clarification. Say, how do you mean exactly? Well, we're not in the market right now. How do you mean exactly? We can't afford it right now. How do you mean exactly? And then listen to the answer, because listening builds trust and credibility. Number 6, ask for the order. Ask for something, say something like, would you like to go ahead with this? What I do is I say, well, does this make sense to you so far, Mr. or Mrs. Customer? If the customer says yes, I say, well, would you like to go ahead with it? Would you like us to send it out to you right away? If you cannot close the sale, at least arrange for a subsequent telephone meeting. Could I call you back at a later time to finalize the details? And when the customer gives you the time and says, why don't you call me back next Tuesday, say, look, why don't we just set a specific time and date now so I can be sure to catch you when it's convenient for you, and then call at exactly that time. Keep your spirits and your energy up. Keep yourself positive and keep yourself motivated. Remember, rejection isn't personal. When they say, no, I don't want it, I can't use it, or I can't afford it, it's not personal. They don't know you enough for it to be personal. It's a knee-jerk reaction to a commercial proposition in a competitive society. So just smile. If you feel tense, get up, walk around, breathe deeply, and shake out your hands to relieve the stress. Keep yourself pumped up. Sometimes if you just exercise a little bit or breathe deeply, you'll clear your mind and be ready to go. Recall and relive success experiences. Before you pick up the phone, think of the last time you picked up the phone and you got a really positive reaction from another person. And think, I'm just about to get that reaction again now. And finally, talk to yourself positively. Say, I feel happy. I feel healthy. I feel terrific. Get yourself pumped up before you pick up the phone and call. An energetic, positive salesperson is a hard person to resist. Resolve in advance that you are going to become absolutely excellent in telephone sales. And then never, never give up until you are.
Thank you for watching High Impact Telephone Selling. If you would like information on other personal development products from Business Advantage, please contact your Business Advantage representative.